like to be back in the neighborhood?
Oh, I love it. Are you kidding? I really have some more memories. I have some terrible memories too, because this is where I learned about racial prejudice very early in life. But I just have very warm memories about this area of Manhattan. It's where I also dreamed. I dreamt, and I was on a fire escape, and we're looking at the stars all the time and listening to music on the radio.
Have you ever been to the Palace? Did you ever go there as a child?
No, I went to the Coliseum. I remember going to the Coliseum. Is that still there?
It's still there, but it's closed, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame. But I used to every Saturday. Are you kidding? I'd go there. I'd have my little Nedick's hot dog and a little Nedick's orange juice. And then I would go into the movie theater and stay there all afternoon and see the movie over and over. Most kids used to do that. I don't know if kids still do that, do they?
I think some do.
Yeah?
I think some do. What did you see there? What do you remember seeing there as a child?
I think I saw Gone with the Wind there. And well, that was their big first run theater too. So, and I saw some pictures with Lana Turner, who was, I thought, the goddess of all time. I don't remember specific movies, but I can only tell you that Saturdays was it was like a religious holiday for me. The movies, that's what I loved. I had met Jerome Robbins, the great genius choreographer, on The King and I. I made the only 2 films he'd ever done. And after The King and I, when he came to the West Coast to do West Side Story, he remembered me, and he said to his co-director, Robert Weiss, I think we should audition Rita Moreno. I think she'd be good for Anita. And I auditioned for the singing part, and that was fine, and I auditioned for the acting part, and that was even better. They really loved it. And then Jerry said to me, now you're going to have to audition for the dancing, And I turned very pale. I hadn't danced since I was, I think, 16 in the movies, or 17. So that's like never having danced at all. You don't even have muscle memory anymore when it's been that long. And I had a heart attack, and I ran to the first dancing school that I could think of, which was a huge one. They had all kinds of dance teachers there, and I immediately signed up for every dance class, every day, every single day, from 9 in the morning till 10 at night. I'd be doing dance classes, trying to catch up, just, to make my muscles work. I damn near killed myself. I really did. One teacher kicked me out of her class because she said, you work too hard and I'm afraid something's going to happen to you, and I don't want it to happen in my class. So she kicked me out of that class. And as it turns out, there's no way you can get ready for a dance audition when you haven't danced in years and years. I mean, come on, a month and a half of killing yourself? That doesn't cut it. And I suddenly remembered that a friend of mine had played Anita in a road company of West Side Story. And I called her up and I said, can you give me some kind of heads up? Teach me some of the steps. And she said, absolutely. She said, but I have to warn you that the steps I teach you may not be the ones they teach you in the audition. Because a dance audition, unlike a singing audition, where you can bring your own songs to show your voice off, and unlike an acting audition where you have the scene way in advance, you can memorize it if you want to, you can go to an acting teacher to work on it. You can't do that with dance because you don't know what they're going to teach you. It's right there on the spot. So she taught me a little piece of America, and she taught me a little section they're called sections, of the dance at the gym, when the 2 gangs are doing kind of a challenge, a dancing challenge. And to my great relief, because I was there my heart was in my throat, the dance assistant, who was Jerome Robbins' dance assistant, taught me a piece of America that was the one my girlfriend had taught me. And we got through that. And then he taught me the mambo at the gym, the same steps she had taught me. So I really did have a heads up. That doesn't mean I did it brilliantly, because I still hadn't danced in a whole bunch of years. But what was so funny about it is that right after I left the audition, Jerome Robbins called up his assistant Howard and he said, well, how did she do? Because he said, we really want her, but if she can't do, if she can't cut the dancing, it's no good. And Howard said, well, I can tell she hasn't danced in a while, or she hasn't kept up. He said, however, she's very vivacious and she has a wonderful sense of exuberance and style and a great sense of humor. And he said, I think we can kind of beat it out of her. He said, but what's really amazing? She learns so fast. And P.S., I got the Oscar and I got the Golden Globe.
In your book, you mentioned that all of the actors had to be the same tobacco brown color.
Yeah, that was Jerome Robbins. He wanted a really big contrast, as though the audience was so stupid, that they couldn't get it, that somebody could be Latino and not necessarily be brown or black or whatever. I mean, look at me. I'm really quite fair. And I don't even have exotic looks the way, say, someone like Chita Rivera has. She's very exotic and sexy, I might add. But he wanted a huge contrast, to the point where he had some of the Jets' hair bleached blonde. Half of these dancers weren't blonde, and they were bleached terribly. They really were not good bleach jobs. They looked bleached, to us anyway. But that's how it was. We all had one makeup color, which really made me so angry. And I remember one morning saying to my makeup man, I don't understand what's going on. I said, Puerto Ricans particularly are every color of the rainbow. They are blonde, they are blue-eyed, like some Cubans are also. They are black as pitch, they're brown, they're tan, they're olive, they're everything. Why do we, and he actually immediately concluded that I had a racial bias. I love that.
What kind of fan mail did you get after the movie came out?
I got great fan mail, but I didn't get a lot. And I certainly got very little from my Hispanic community. That's something I want to talk with Lynn because when we do the interview later, because it's so weird. I never got fan mail from the Latino community. I realized why many years later. And that was that we don't have a history of fan mail at that time. See, now a lot of Latino kids will write fan letters, but they'll usually write them in English too. And in my community at that time, you didn't even know where to write to someone like, a movie star. And I kept thinking, maybe they don't like me. Maybe they don't like what I do. This is before West Side. And then I surmised and I concluded that it's just a question, it's a cultural thing. You didn't write fan mail. And even now, when I was doing the play of my life, which eventually inspired the book, in Berkeley, California, it was very hard to get people, Latinos, to come to the theater to see me. Go figure.
Wow.
And the Berkeley Rep Theater was just kind of astounded. And we reached out. I mean, I was on Telemundo and I was on Univision. Anybody who would have me where I could speak Spanish and promote my show. Eventually they showed up because they started to tell each other. They don't read reviews because they're not theater goers. And thank God for Lin-Manuel, because he's really awakened the theatrical experience for Hispanic people. Not just Puerto Ricans, but Hispanic people.
How do you think the impact of this movie is? What was it at the time, and how do you think it's evolved over time?
first of all, who knew that this movie would still be playing, what, 50 years later? Is it now 50 years?
52.
52 years. Thank you, Higa. I'm 82. I don't remember things. But who knew? When I was walking on the Goldwyn lot where we were shooting the film with George Chakiris, who, by the way, still remains a very dear and close friend. And he's my daughter's godfather. And when we found out that they were going to do a reserve seat ticket basis for the opening of West Side Story, I said, we were walking down, and I said, George, we're screwed. Nobody's gonna pay that kind of money. $5? Are they crazy? Because on top of everything else, my feeling was, I knew it was a brilliant film as it was a brilliant play. But that didn't mean that I thought people were to come in droves to see a movie where people are singing in operatic voices tonight, like that. And then, on top of that, none of the costumes had sequins or spangles or anything like that. Who had ever heard of a movie where people looked like ragamuffins? A musical, I mean. So I was absolutely convinced, and I depressed the hell out of Georgia. And he kept saying to me, because he always took my word for everything, and I was like the mama. And he'd say, you think? I said, it's not going to happen. Miss Smartass here, not going to happen. Here we are, 52 years later. The movie still plays. It's on television all the time. Only a couple of years ago, on the 50th anniversary, a couple of years ago, we had our handprints and footprints put into the cement in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater, where all the famous prints are. It's amazing. This movie has the longest life ever.